Hi, I'm Beowulf Boritt, and I'm the set designer for Act 1 at Lincoln Center Theatre. Act 1 is the story of Moss Hart and his rags to riches story, how he rose from being a poor kid in the Bronx to being a major Broadway playwright and director. And it's sort of the first act of his life, how he went from the Bronx to his first hit on Broadway. In part, what the set for Act 1 is trying to do is get a sense of the kind of sprawling nature of Moss Hart's career and his entrance into a career, but also to try to represent New York and the kind of crazy messiness that is New York and that is a career in the theater. I was consciously trying not to be kind of organized and neat about the set, but let it be sprawling and let it be messy the way in New York you have this building jammed up against this building and something else built on top of it. There's a card right here from a lithograph maker named Martin Lewis, who I didn't even know until a few years ago. I stumbled on his work at an auction. And he does all these sort of great Depression-era pictures of New York, but this was part of the inspiration for the set, for the clotheslines and the water towers and the chimneys and all that you see. The way James wrote it, so much of it is very realistic. It's producers' offices that need desks and chairs. It's the tenement where they need to be cooking and they need to be cleaning. You've got George Kaufman constantly washing his hands, so you need a sink and you need running water. There's physical things that you kind of need to tell the story. And James also, when we first met, talked to me about this sense he had of Moss Hart kind of constantly running up and down stairs, in and out of offices. And that's one of the things that sort of led to this. I'm not sure how many staircases the set has in it ultimately, but this is sort of the main stairwell of the tenement that takes you up also into the producer's office, to the neighbor's office, up to the roof of the tenement. But as the set keeps swinging around, it's sort of a Escher-esque pile of stairs everywhere. There's a staircase up into the theater that takes you also into the office. It keeps coming around. You've got the kind of grand staircase into George Kaufman's house, which leads up to an upper level as well. Just little back stairs that comes out of Kaufman's house that also leads into the hotel. The actors call this one the suicide stair because it was so steep. And we had a bunch of little safety rails built in around it. This is where I would say I do most of the real figuring out a set, is working out these models, scale models, to figure out what it all looks like. I always think that set design is essentially a sculptural art form, and if I make it in 3D, then the model will look like what the real thing is going to look like. All of the sort of technical drawings now I end up doing on the computer. So this is actually the Act 1 set flattened out. It's as if you took the whole front of the set off the turntable and rolled it out flat. This is actually one of the earlier working versions of it. It was changed after this, but this was how we sort of started explaining the set to people before I'd finished building the whole model. It is fun to have sort of a record of some of the people I've gotten to work with. I never thought I would get to work with half of these people, much less all of them. There's James Lapine and Steve Sondheim. There's Hal Prince down there, Susan Stroman, John Kander, and opening night cards from various people. Getting to work with these guys that I remember reading about, I just have to pinch myself to be so lucky that that's happened. And that does seem like very much the journey of Act 1, the sort of rags to riches story, this kid who came in, wanted this thing, and achieves it. The overall feel of the set, what I was really trying to get at with it in the end, beyond all the mechanics of needing to provide locations, was the sort of energy of New York City and of a life in the theater specifically. You know, you do this job and you do this job, and then some other unexpected thing happens that leads to something else, and you never quite know the path you're going to take through all of that. And that really is sort of the metaphor of the set in the end, and sort of the journey that Moss Hart describes in the book.